June 27, 2013, East Baltimore, 9:30 p.m. 8 people on a porch, laughing, talking, the kind of summer night where you forget about everything else. Jenny Sherd, 20 years old, honor graduate. Her mother called her special, said there was something different about her. The way she'd walk up to you when you were mad and just give you a hug, make you laugh, make you forget. She's sitting with her friends when the argument starts. Tierra Fallon, 31, mother of 4, no criminal record, but she's got a grudge that's been simmering for over a year. Something about disrespect, something about the father of her children. Words turn to threats. Fallen leaves. 20 minutes later, she's back. 2 men with her. Gunfire. Jenny Sherd, shot in the head, the chest, dead before the ambulance arrives. Sierra Williams, bullet to the skull. Her mother thinks she'll be brain dead. Somehow, she survives. Michelle Hitchens, 51, shot in the arm. Non-life-threatening, they say. 3 weeks later, an embolism stops her heart. Within hours, Baltimore police named the shooter, Darryl Anderson, a ghost with a record stretching back to 15 years old. Attempted murder, assault, gun after gun after gun, convicted 4 times, released 4 times, an alleged enforcer for the Black Guerrilla family, a gang that doesn't just run the streets, they run the prisons too. Police Commissioner Anthony Batts holds a press conference. We made Darryl Anderson Public Enemy No.1 in direct response to violence he inflicted with no regard for the sanctity of life. The manhunt begins, and Baltimore, bloodied, broken, and fed up, watches. This is the story of how a city tried to catch his monster, and the system that kept letting him go. Every killer has a beginning. For Darryl Anderson, it started with the Black Guerrilla family, founded 1966, San Quentin Prison, California. Born from the ashes of the Black Panther Party, revolutionary rhetoric wrapped around a criminal enterprise, political language hiding pure crime. By 2013, they own Baltimore, not just the streets, the jails, Baltimore City Detention Center. 4,000 inmates packed into 5 crumbling buildings, overcrowded, understaffed, 90% pretrial detainees waiting for their day in court, and actually run by a gang. April 2013, just 2 months before the Elmora Avenue murders, federal authorities drop an indictment that shakes the city to its core. 44 people charged, 27 of them corrections officers, racketeering, drug trafficking, money laundering, bribery, extortion, sex behind bars. At the center of it all, Tavon Bulldog, white, an inmate, locked up since 2009, awaiting trial for attempted murder. But inside Baltimore City Detention Center, he's not a prisoner, he's the commander. Listen to this, a recorded phone call, January 2013, FBI wiretap, White's voice, clear as day. This is my jail, you understand that? I'm dead serious. I make every final call in this jail, nothing goes past me. Any of my brothers that deal with anybody, it's gonna come to me. Not a warden saying this, not a guard, an inmate. White ran the Black Guerrilla family like a Fortune 500 company. Hierarchies, structure, systems. He controlled the working men, trusted inmates with freedom to move around the facility. 95% of them, BGF members. They picked up contraband stashed in certain areas, transported it to buyers, couriers in a prison they controlled, the corrections officers, bought and paid for. Federal agents discovered the playbook. BGF members were literally taught, instructed to target specific women, guards with low self-esteem, insecurities, certain physical attributes, romance them, seduce them, turn them into accomplices, and it worked. Tavon White impregnated 4 female correctional officers while locked up in maximum security. One of them twice, 5 children total. 2 guards got his name. Tavon tattooed on their bodies like a brand. He gave one officer a diamond ring. 4 others received luxury cars as gifts, Mercedes-Benz, BMW, all purchased with drug money laundered through the jail. The officers smuggled contraband in their underwear, their shoes, their hair, cell phones, prescription pills, heroin, tobacco. In a slow month, White claimed profits of $16,000 from inside a jail cell. Gary Maynard, Maryland's Secretary of Public Safety and Correctional Services, stands in front of cameras, sweating under the lights. It's totally on me. I don't make any excuses. It becomes embarrassing for me when we expose ourselves and participate in an investigation that's going to show what's going on in our jails that I'm not proud of. He orders polygraph tests for every employee at the detention center, but embarrassment doesn't fix anything. Policy changes don't undo years of rot, because while the feds are building their racketeering case against the BGF inside the prison, the gang's enforcers are still working the streets outside. Darryl Anderson is one of them, a soldier in an army that operates seamlessly on both sides of the wall, prison and pavement, the same organization, the same violence. And in the spring and summer of 2013, Baltimore is drowning in blood, homicides climbing past 200 for the year, retaliation shootings, neighborhood beefs that turn fatal, disciplinary hits ordered from behind bars by men who'll never see daylight. The BGF doesn't just control contraband, they control violence itself. And when someone steps out of line, when someone disrespects the wrong person, when a grudge needs settling and a message needs sending, they send their enforcers. Anderson's been in the system since he was 15 years old. Attempted murder charges, assault with a deadly weapon, armed robbery, gun possession, again and again and again. He once stabbed a man 6 times in a nightclub parking lot, collapsing his lung. Convicted 4 times as an adult. 4 times, judges handed down serious sentences, then suspended most of the time. 4 times, he walked out early, released, paroled, set free. By June 2013, he's back on the streets, a ticking bomb in a city already engulfed in flames. The BGF inevitably dominates the news cycle. 40 defendants, eventually 40 convictions. The jail's corruption, ugly bear for everyone to see. Governor Martin O'Malley promises reform, but the violence on the streets, that doesn't stop. It never stops. Because 3 days after Tavon White's criminal empire starts crumbling in federal court, a woman named Tierra Fallon walks up to a crowded porch on Elmora Avenue, and she brings Darryl Anderson with her. The BGF taught him well. When someone says, "Do what y'all do," you don't ask questions, you don't hesitate, you just shoot. June 27, 2013, the 3300 block of Elmora Avenue, East Baltimore, the 4x4 neighborhood. It's the kind of block where everyone knows everyone, where summer nights mean sitting outside until the heat breaks, where your porch is your living room when the air conditioning doesn't work. To make a Bishop's house, 8 people gathered, friends, family, talking, laughing. Jenny Sherd is there, the girl who could make anyone smile. Sierra Williams, 24, Tomika's daughter. Michelle Hitchens, 51, just trying to enjoy the evening. Normal people, normal night, until Tierra Fallon shows up. Fallon and Bishop have history. Bad blood goes back over a year. Accusations, insults, the kind of beef that should end with blocked phone numbers and avoided streets. But tonight, it escalates. Fallon gets into it with Bishop's daughter. Voices raised, fingers pointed. The argument spills out onto the sidewalk. Neighbors watch from windows. Before she leaves, Fallon makes a promise. Witnesses will later testify to her exact words. "I'm gonna f up this whole block, and this bitch is gonna be the first." She walks away. Bishop and her family think it's over. Just another loud mouth running off steam. They go back to their conversations, back to their porch. 20 minutes pass, then Fallon returns. This time, she's not alone. 2 men walk with her. One is Darryl Anderson, dreadlocks, forehead tattoos, 25 years old with 4 convictions and a reputation. The other man, never identified, never caught, a ghost who fired bullets and disappeared into the Baltimore night, falling points at the porch. 8 people sitting there, unaware, unarmed, defenseless, and then she screams it. Air this bitch out. Do what y'all do. Anderson pulls out a silver handgun. The second man does the same. They open fire. Bullets rip through the evening air, through bodies, through lives. People scatter, diving, crawling, screaming. Jenny Sherd doesn't make it off the porch. Shot in the head, shot in the chest. She collapses where she sat, 20 years old, a 2010 honors graduate of Doris M. Johnson High School, the girl her mother called her 4th child, her baby girl, the special one, dead in seconds. Sierra Williams, bullet to the skull. She crumples, blood pools. Her mother, Bishop, is right there, helpless, watching her daughter bleed on the concrete. Doctors will later tell the family to prepare for the worst. Brain dead, they say. Miraculously, somehow, Sierra survives, but she'll never be the same. Michelle Hitchens, shot in the arm. It doesn't look bad at first. Non-life-threatening, the paramedics say. She's loaded into an ambulance, stable, conscious, but trauma has a way of killing you slowly. 3 weeks later, on July 19th, an embolism travels through her bloodstream. 51 years old, a mother, a friend, gone. The shooters don't stick around. They're gone before the sirens start wailing, before the police tape goes up, before the news cameras arrive. Baltimore Police, Northeast District Major Robert Worley had just finished patrol rounds on that very block, minutes before the shooting. Minutes. He comes back to chaos, shell casings, blood on the steps, witnesses in shock, some too terrified to speak. Within hours, detectives pieced together what happened. Tierra Fallen, arrested at her grandmother's house, charged with second-degree murder, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, attempted murder, reckless endangerment. She's held without lease. But the shooter? Darryl Anderson is gone. Police release his photo, dreadlocks, tattoos across his forehead, a face Baltimore needs to remember. On July 4th, 1 week after the massacre, Police Commissioner Anthony Batts stands before cameras and declares something the city has never heard before. Public Enemy No.1. His name is Darryl Anderson. He's a thug. He's a violent person in Baltimore. From the information we have, yes, he's in a gang. I'm not trying to hide anything. Lieutenant Colonel Darryl D'Souza doesn't thin words either. He's somewhere. He thinks he can hide, but we're going to find him. The manhunt goes national. U.S. Marshals get involved. FBI multi-state alerts. Anderson is considered armed at all times, possibly carrying 2 firearms. He's told associates he'd rather die than go back to prison, but he's also got help. A network, safe houses, people loyal to the BGF who move him city to city, state to state, 20 days. That's how long he stays free. Then, mid-July, a tip comes in. Birmingham, Alabama. U.S. Marshals set up surveillance outside an apartment complex. They watch a car with Maryland plates back into a parking space. Someone inside the apartment peeks through the blinds. They know the cops are there. A woman walks out. "He's not here," she says. The marshals don't buy it. Moments later, the door opens again. Darryl Anderson steps out, hands up, dreadlocks, tattoos, exactly who they came for. Inside the apartment, agents find a .40 caliber Glock and 2 bulletproof vests. Maryland U.S. Marshal Johnny Hughes releases a statement. The suspect never stood a chance. Anderson is extradited back to Baltimore, charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder, 6 counts of attempted murder, 8 counts of conspiracy, multiple handgun violations. But this isn't his first murder case. Detectives have been building something else, Something that happened a year earlier, something Anderson thought he'd gotten away with. A man named Derek Gamble shot 12 times outside a bar, and the deeper investigators dig into Anderson's past, the more they realize this wasn't just a gang enforcer, this was a serial killer the system kept releasing over and over and over again. July 8, 2012, 1 year before Elmora Avenue, TB's Bar, Parkville, Baltimore County, the 7100 block of Darlington Drive, 2 a.m. last call, people stumbling towards their cars, the parking lot still half full. Derek Gamble, 31 years old, walks out of the bar and gets into his vehicle. He never makes it home. 12 shots, semi-automatic handgun, head and torso. He's found slumped in the driver's seat, blood pooling on the floor mats. No witnesses come forward. No motive ever established. No arrests. The case goes cold until Darryl Anderson's name surfaces after Elmora Avenue. Detectives start connecting dots, ballistics, timelines, associates. Suddenly, the Gamble murder has a suspect. Anderson is charged. First-degree premeditated murder. But here's the thing that should haunt everyone involved. Anderson shouldn't have been free to kill Derek Gamble. He shouldn't have been free to kill Jenny lled, Michelle Hitchens, or shoot Sierra Williams, because the system had him over and over and kept letting go. Let's rewind. 1998, Anderson is 15 years old, charged with attempted first-degree murder, use of a handgun and a crime of violence, assault, intimidating a witness. The case is dismissed. He walks. September 2003, he's 16. Police find him crouched in the back seat of a car, window smashed, alarm blaring, glass everywhere. Officers ask if he's armed. He tells them yes. They recover a .38 semi-automatic handgun from his front pocket. Conviction, sentenced to 3 years in prison, all but 5 days suspended. He walks. 2 years later, another gun, possession of a firearm by a person under 21. Conviction, number 2, sentenced to 4 years. Released February 2007 on mandatory supervision. 5 months later, June 2007, he robs a corner grocery store on Chesterfield Avenue. Armed robbery, 3rd conviction, sentenced to 12 years. Judge suspends all but 3. By December 2009, he's out again. Then comes the stabbing. Club K West, 21st Street, 2010. Anderson walks up to a couple dancing, take his shirt off, punches Gerald Thomas in the head. Bouncers break it up. Anderson runs. Thomas realizes he's been stabbed 6 times. Back wound so deep his lung collapses. Anderson is charged with attempted murder. He pleads down to first-degree assault, 4th conviction. February 2011, sentenced to 13 years in prison. The judge suspends everything except time already served. He walks again. 18 months later, Derek Gamble is dead. 11 months after that, Jenny lled and Michelle Hitchens are dead. 4 convictions, 4 releases, 3 murders. The trials come fast. December 2014, Baltimore County Circuit Court, Derek Gamble case, jury deliberates, guilty, first-degree premeditated murder. March 16, 2015, sentencing, life without parole, more than 35 years. Anderson sits quietly. The judge remarks he's been a perfect gentleman throughout the trial. 8 days later, March 24th, he's back in court. Baltimore City, the Elmora Avenue trial. Tierra Fallon sits beside him. Co-defendants, a mother of 4 with no prior criminal record, facing the same charges as a 4-time convicted gang enforcer. The jury convicts both. Anderson, 2 counts of second-degree murder, 6 counts of attempted murder, 8 counts of conspiracy to commit murder, multiple handgun violations. Fallon, same counts, same verdict. Potential sentence, life plus 400 years. Judge Gail Racine will decide. Fallon's family fills one side of the courtroom, crying, begging for leniency. She made a mistake, they say. She's a good person, a caring mother. One uncle proposes something bizarre. Make her an indentured servant to the victims' families for 30 years. Make her look at them in the eyes every day. We don't have to keep feeding the jail system, he pleads. Anderson's side of the courtroom? Empty. His attorney says he asked his family not to come. His mother had been too upset at the previous sentencing. Judge Rossin listens to it all, then delivers the sentence. Life, more than 240 years for both of them. Anderson thanks the judge. Polite, composed, he rises to be shackled, turns toward the gallery. State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby is sitting in the first row. Anderson smiles and flips her off, middle finger extended, held there, no remorse, no regrets. Mosby later tells reporters, justice has been served. But has it? Total sentences for Darryl Anderson. 2 consecutive life terms, more than 275 years. He'll die in prison, no question. But Guinea Sherd is still dead. Michelle Hitchens is still dead. Derek Gamble is still dead. Sierra Williams survived with a bullet in her brain. And the second shooter, the man who stood next to Anderson on Elmora Avenue and opened fire, he's never been caught, never even identified, still out there, still free. The system got Anderson. Eventually, after 4 chances, after 3 murders, after the bodies piled high enough that they couldn't ignore it anymore. July 3rd, 2013, 6 days after the shooting, New Baptist Missionary Calvary Church, edge of the Elmora Avenue block where Guinea Sherd died. Hundreds pack the pews. Overflow crowds spill into the aisles. Candles flicker. Tears fall. Rachel Williams, Jenny's mother, stands at the front. Her voice cracks. She was like my baby girl, my 4th child. Of all my kids, it was something special about her. Tanisha Coley, Jenny's older sister, speaks next. Let this be an example that all this fighting and killing has to stop. This could have been prevented. The 40 people shot so far this summer could have been prevented. 40 people, and it's only July. Community leaders filled the church. NAACP President Tessa Hill Aston, City Councilman Warren Branch and Brandon Scott, police officers from the Northeast District, State's Attorney Greg Bernstein. Everyone says the same thing. We have to do better. We need witnesses to come forward. We can't let fear win. But fear doesn't leave East Baltimore just because you ask it to. The Elmora block remains marked by trauma. Bullet holes still visible in the window. Blood stains on the steps. Neighbors who saw everything. Too terrified to say a word. Because snitches get stitches. Because the BGF has a long memory. Because even when you lock up Public Enemy No.1, there's always another one waiting. Police Commissioner Anthony Batts knows this. The Public Enemy program, his innovation, his media push, works exactly 3 times in the summer of 2013. Darryl Anderson, captured in Alabama, then 2 more, Jamal Williams, arrested within an hour of being named. Another suspect caught days later. Fast arrests, big headlines, proof that the campaign works. Batts uses the label at least 3 more times into 2014, then nothing. February 2014, the last Public Enemy designation. After that, silence. The program quietly dies. No announcement, no explanation. It just fades. Maybe because splashy arrests don't fix broken systems. Maybe because half the city's murders still go unsolved. Maybe because naming enemies is easy. Fixing the root causes is impossible. But the BGF, they don't fade. 40 defendants convicted in the jail corruption scandal. Tavon White, the man who ran the detention center like his personal kingdom, sentenced to just 12 years in federal prison. 12 years for racketeering, for turning corrections officers into accomplices, for fathering 5 children behind bars while commanding a criminal empire. he'll be out eventually. The Baltimore City Detention Center itself closed. July 2015, Governor Larry Hogan orders it shut down. The inmates are redistributed. The 5 crumbling buildings sit empty. 2021, finally demolished, erased from the skyline, but the corruption, the gang's influence, that doesn't disappear when you knock down walls. Federal indictments against BGF members continue for years. Other prisons, other cities. The organization adapts, survives, because gangs don't die, they evolve. Sierra Williams, the woman shot in the head on Elmora Avenue, recovers. Physically, at least, she's alive. Against every odd, she's alive. But her mother, Bishop, will never forget watching her daughter bleed out on that porch. Never forget thinking she'd lost her. The witnesses who testified against Anderson and Fallon, they showed extraordinary courage. In a city paralyzed by no snitching culture, they stood up in open court and pointed at 2 murderers. Marilyn Mosby, the state's attorney, praised them. If we want Baltimore to be a safer city for people to live and to work, we need more acts of courage like we've seen in this case. But courage costs. Some of those witnesses had to move, change their lives, look over their shoulders, because the second shooter is still out there. The man who stood beside Darryl Anderson, who heard Tierra Fallon scream, "Air this bitch out," and pulled his trigger without hesitation. He fired bullets into a crowd of 8 people, and he walked away, never identified, never charged, never caught. Still breathing free air while Jenny Sherd burps in the ground. That's the legacy. Not the 2 life sentences, not the 275 years, not the conviction rate or the press conferences. The legacy is the second shooter who got away. The legacy is 4 suspended sentences that led to 3 murders. The legacy is a 15-year-old charged with attempted murder whose case got dismissed, who grew into a 25-year-old serial killer. The legacy is a prison system so corrupted that inmates ran it better than the guards. The legacy is Tavon White fathering 5 children behind bars while ordering hits on the outside. The legacy is a public enemy program that worked 3 times, then vanished because real change is harder than hashtags. The legacy is Rachel Williams visiting her daughter's grave every week. The legacy is Sierra Williams waking up every day with a scar on her skull and memories she can't erase. The legacy is a system that keeps failing until the bodies pile so high you can't ignore them anymore. Darryl Anderson will die in prison. But the machine that made him is still running, still breaking people, still pretending that locking up monsters is the same as stopping them from being created. Baltimore got its public enemy, but it never got justice. It just got revenge and called it the same thing.